What happens when you take a classic Opel Kadett and you install a 600 horsepower C20 LET engine? Let's dive in, let's have a look, let's see how it's been built. With this kind of car, it doesn't need to be pristine. It's built for a purpose. This, the owner will admit to this, is very much a whatever he's got around him, he makes work. You can literally see the grass coming through the floor here. Doesn't have to be clean and crisp because it goes along with the full personality of how this car is. It just has to have character. And I think that's what a lot of these new era petrol heads aren't seeing. Where does it begin? How did you end up with this?
Basically, I've had it 20 years now, so 2004 I bought it, only because I couldn't afford a Mark 1 Escort.
Right, okay.
So back then, sounds mad now, but they were about 1,200 quid at the time for a Mark 1, and I think I got this for 400 quid on the road, taxed, MOT'd. Looked something like a Mark 1 Escort, so I bought it. They weren't really that common in the UK, it's more the Chevette. It's basically a Vauxhall Chevette from their back.
Yeah.
Slightly nicer dash in these, but I'll be biased because I got one of these. But it was actually half tidy when I bought it. It had a bit of a cheap, nasty bottom half respray. A mate of mine worked in a paint shop, and he said, oh, get it in one weekend and we'll get it all in primer, do a few more bits, and then we'll paint it. And then his boss got wind that we were taking it in. He's like, oh, you're not doing that. So, of course, I didn't have the money to paint it, so it sort of stayed as it was, as a dry build state. And then with the reception it got, it just ended up staying as it was.
Is this the reason why, because of the reception you've had from the car, it stayed like this?
Yeah, I mean, I've undone about painting it a few times. As I'm getting older and a bit sadder, I wouldn't mind painting it now. But when I used to take it to the shows, I was like fighting people out of the way to shut the bonnet to go and run it up the strip. And then took it the following year and it was exactly the same. And you think, well, surely people would be bored of it by now, but it's just different. It's interesting, isn't it? You know?
Very much so.
You go to like a classic Ford show and you can see a row of mint Mark 1 Escorts. Go, oh, there's a red one, there's a blue one. They're all pin straight and perfect. Whereas you look at something that's a bit rough and ready and everything, it's interesting. You know, there's a lot of stuff on it.
Was it always the intention to do the engine swap, or was it to use it as a Chris? Because you said you was an Escort fan.
I think it was always going to have a let in it, because I was always known for my Novas back then, so I always had a few XEs and lets knocking about. And then obviously it's evolved from there, different gearboxes over time, different axles as stuff's broken. It's now 577 when Chris mapped it at EFI.
Is that with the nitrous or without the nitrous?
Without the gas, that, yeah. I've not had the balls to put the nitrous on, to be fair, since I've done it this time. A very, very old turbo. Now that was off Specky's Tigra, old GT3572, yep, which is still hanging in there somehow. Gearbox now is Opel Monza.
So what's been your biggest challenges with the car?
Well, I mean, like, don't forget, when this was built, it was probably 2008, 2007, 2008, so it wasn't a very common swap back then. It's just trying to make everything work and fit together, really. Future
plans for this old girl?
If I keep it, I'd like to strip it all back down and not start again, but just refine things. You know, 20 years of learning stuff, perfecting your craft. You look back at old stuff that you've done and think, I could do that better now. I mean, even at the time, it was, oh, we've got to get this together, we've got pod tomorrow, we've got to get that done, got to get this done, and it's just, that'll do for now. But the problem is, the bodges tend to be that good that they tend to stay and the car carries on working.
I know it's Harvey.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
Number plate, RVE.
Never ever clocked that. Never clocked that. The thing that stands out to everyone is obviously the body. I don't feel this is the rat look, this is more like the American patina look. For me, this is what makes this car, and I think this is what everyone picks up on this car. Is the first thing is the beautiful blue colour, the sky blue, but then you have this blend of the rust which just runs down. Darcy tried to stick the sellotape back on. It has colour-coded sellotape here to cover the rust. This just goes back to the full personality of this car. So this is where the magical area is. This is obviously the C20 LET turbo engine out of something like a Calibra or Cav turbo. This has been fully modified from top to bottom. Steel rods, the pistons, valves, you name it, it's been done. This makes on the region of around 580 horsepower. So this is a mix and match of parts from other vehicles adapted to make the power and to make everything do what it's supposed to do. So moving on to the inside, it is no different to what you can see on the outside. Fiesta RS Turbo front Recaro seats. Really fit really nice in here. Probably the nicest, cleanest thing on the car, which is the carbon gear stick. You've got the hydraulic handbrake. There's not much more to show in here, but there is for the old school, older generation. It has an Apexe AVCR. Anyone who remembers them back in the day, they were a digital boost controller and they just worked and everyone wanted one. So the car's fitted with rotor drift wheels, 9-inch wide on the rear, 8-inch wide on the front. The brake setup on the front is high spec brakes. The rear, which again suits this car, and it goes back to that theme of basically making what you've got work. It is on Mark IV Golf calipers with an adapter bracket which the owners made, but then it's actually fitted to Peugeot 106 discs. The only reason for that is he had a set knocking around, so he thought they're brand new, I'll re-drill them and I'll use them. It sits super low, and I would have thought with the stiff ladder bar setup, he doesn't squat so much, but I'm sure we'll find out when we go out for the drive. You just feel everything, don't you, in these old girls? You don't like them?
Too old.
You're getting old, man. That's what you're doing. You're getting old.
Either got to drive it like Mercedes, you install it, or drive it like a knob, and then you get away with it. Like I say, it doesn't really go any faster, it just wheel spins more. Just makes more smoke out the tyres.
Jesus Christ. Wow, you can feel everything. Jesus Christ. Wow. Oh my. Oh, this is a car. Rear-wheel drive is just different. Turbo noise.
Just missing a bit.
Wow, that pulls like a train.
So once it starts coming on boost.
It does. Jesus! Not disappointed. Everything I expected it to be. The holes in the floor, you can see the ground. Absolutely everything I expected it to be.
Just got to make it comfortable now.
I don't think they'll make this comfortable,
No.
do you? I see what you mean, mate. He just spins in the back,
Just
doesn't
wheel
he?
spins more.
And like I say, these new lads who have the new school turbos where they want to map it all out and have reduced lag, it's not, no. That's the entertaining part where he kicks you. This old girl should not be doing that, mate. And it's the fact you've not gone overcomplicated with stuff.
Yeah.
You have kept it the old school way. And that's the, yeah.
It just works, so doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's it. We had 20 years well, let's say 20 years. We had 5 years experience trying to make all this stuff work.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, we spent the time and effort back then because there was nothing else. We had to make it work.
Yeah.
Where nowadays it's, you're plugging a fancy new ECU in and then you're trying to make it work because it's asking that person, asking this person. Where back in the day there was no internet.
No.
So you had to get the manual out for the AVCR
Yeah.
and go, right, how do we turn the boost up on this thing? Right, how do you have progress? Yeah, but I think nowadays everyone's a bit lazy in learning. They want to send it to someone to set up.
Yeah.
Everyone takes numbers for granted and it does frustrate the hell out of me nowadays. Oh well, that Golf R does a 10-1.
Yeah.
You're like, have you ever been in a 10-1 car? Well, no.
That was one of the reasons why I sort of parked this up, because I went up to watch one of Nobby's test days. I was watching them and it was like RS3s, M2s just hot lapping.
Yeah.
Mid-10s. I'm like, I'd have to pull it over, give it a cool down,
Yeah.
top it up with oil, wipe it in the sun and get all
Yeah.
anything, just to get it like just into the 10s, and you're like,
Yeah.
why am I bothering?
Yeah.
You know?
But again, I suppose we're the old school generation of the personality as well in the car. They just want to go A to B as fast as possible
Yeah.
and have no attachment with a spaceship. We want to have a bit of personality and a bit of excitement with it.
it.
What's your best memory in this old girl?
Where do you start? Well, obviously the best one was when they got the 10.9 in it. Done the run, and I've been trying, doing low 11s, and just couldn't get it. It's like one thing or another. As you know yourself, you've got to, everything's got to align and work, isn't it? And I come off a line, and it just went like a catapult. I was like, oh, we're on here. Don't mess up the gears now. Don't miss third. You know what I mean? So going through the gears, got to the end, and literally just got to like the rundown lane, turning around to come back to the pits, and someone texted me and said, 10.9. I was like, yes, I was like screaming. The other one was Dean, who I've got to give a shout out to, because this wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my best mate Dean that helped me build it. He was on his back at the toll booth for pod, welding one of the ladder bars back together because we snapped one in order to get it home. Because that was the other beauty about this, it's always driven. It's never, once or twice I've took it on a trailer, don't like it. I like the buzz off driving down to the shows and have a bit of a play with other cars and stuff when you're getting closer in. But that's the thing, when it did the 10.9, it had the older engine in. Sold the original C20 let, that was 496 horsepower, that one. Basically the same spec as this, just pretty much a standard head on it and XE cams. And that's what I did the 10.9 in, so now I should get into the 10s, but I just can't make it work.
So was your 10.9 on slicks or treads?
It was Mickey Thompson drag radials.
Okay.
So I've got slick since, but they're a lot taller. So it always bogs off the line now, and I've literally got to have no mechanical sympathy and just drop the clutch at 6,000 revs, just waiting for something to go. It was always sort of built to try and tone it down because it's quite savage. So like kept all the gearing quite tall and stuff to try and calm it down a bit. So I think it needs to go the other way now.
I absolutely adore this car. Following it through the years, knowing the stories and actually seeing it develop, for me this has its own personality, kind of got its own character with its name, with the patina, with the look. It's its own kind of entity and I love it. So we'll sign this video off. I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I'll see everyone on the next video.